Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Thursday, September 7th, 2023. This is live stream 962. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then normally taking a first look, or I share a live review of a game. Now, tonight, we're going to dive in and take a first look at the 4th edition of Basic Fantasy from Chris Gonnerman, and we will be taking a look at this in just a bit. And I'm pretty excited to dive on in because I am a big fan of Basic Fantasy, and I'll talk about why when we're taking a first look. So if you're tuning in live to see the first look of the 4th edition of Basic Fantasy, I do want to let you know that we always tackle the tabletop gaming news first around here. So it's going to be probably about 35-40 minutes before we get into the first look. So if you're watching live, just put your feet up, relax. As the madman has pointed out in chat, it is Happy Friday Eve. So relax, we'll get to the first look, don't worry. Now, if you happen to be tuning in 30 minutes or more after the show is ended, there will be timestamps. So if you want, if you're impatient, you can jump past the tabletop gaming news as well as our brief intermission and get right to the first look and page through. But I do want to mention there is a lot of cool news tonight, so maybe you don't want to skip past it. But those timestamps are located in the show notes, and depending on the device you might happen to be using to watch this, could be right there in the timeline of the video itself. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is a live show, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. One of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, and you must be a subscriber for at least 48 hours to the channel before you can take part in chat. Yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, maybe there's something about the 4th edition of Basic Fantasy you want a closer look at, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is the Motor City Madman himself. That's right, the Madman is with us, as is Kevin King, Kevin R. Smith, and Testy Trekkie. So welcome aboard. So yes, it is the kickoff of the 2023 NFL season. So I would take a guess it might be a little quieter in chat tonight. As a gag, I was going to open the show and be like, okay, so we've got until 20 minutes after the hour because that's kickoff and that's when the show's going to end. No. And I got to point out the Madman's Lions are playing tonight. And I laid money on the Lions. Yes, yes. Yes, I did. I actually did. Took him in the first half, getting 3 points. See what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying they win the game, but I think the Lions keep this one close because they got a pretty high-powered offense themselves. All righty. So welcome aboard, everybody. Let's jump on into the news because Plan B Games is going to be releasing the Century Big Box in October. I've got the latest. Century Big Box contains the 3 titles in the Century game series: Spice Road, Eastern Wonders, and A New World, along with all promo items released for these games and a new mini expansion, Golden Deals. So let's talk about each of the games. In Century Spice Road, that's the first in the series of games that explores the history of each century with spice trading as the theme for the first installment. In Century Spice Road, players are caravan leaders who travel the famed Silk Road to deliver spices to the far reaches of the continent for fame and glory. Each turn, players perform one of 4 actions. Establish a trade route by taking a market card. Make a trader harvest spices by playing a card from their hand. Fulfilling a demand by meeting a victory point card's requirements and claiming it. They can also rest by taking back into their hand all the cards they've played. The last round is triggered once a player has claimed their 5th victory point card. Then whoever has the most victory points is the winner. Then we have Century Eastern Wonders. Centuries ago, the lucrative spice trade compelled the prosperous nations of the world to explore alternate routes to the sources of these precious goods. These nations took to the seas to seek out exotic lands. This led to the discovery of the famed Spice Islands, which I think is where the Spice Girls lived, where the most valuable spices of the world were found. This discovery also led to further exploration, competition, and later, war. During this time of prosperity and opportunity, you find yourself traveling on the high seas in search of these exotic wonders. As a merchant and privateer representing your nation, you seek to control this region for glory and profit. Your journey continues in the Far East. Then lastly, we've got Century, A New World, which is the 3rd installment of the Century series. Century, A New World sends players to the Americas at the dawn of the 16th century. Braving the wilderness, players are forced to explore new lands, trade with local inhabitants, journal their findings, and hunt and gather to survive. The game integrates the compelling and incredibly fun resource trading mechanisms found in the Century series with a worker placement mechanism with a twist. The Century Big Box is for 2 to 4 players ages 8 and up. I don't know about that 8 and up. I think these games are a little more complex for an 8-year-old to pick up, but I don't know. I've never played them, I will point out. Each plays in about 45 minutes, and this big box is going to carry an MSRP of $79.99 when it lands in stores on October 27th. I have never played any of these Century games, but I've always heard good things about them. And I understand, I might be wrong, maybe somebody out there in chat can correct me, but I thought that you can actually build on each of the games by combining them. Or there's parts of each game that you can like mash together to create kind of a different game. So I don't know. But this is going to have all 3 of the original games, plus their promos, plus that mini expansion. Should also point out that if you are interested in only the mini expansion, I understand that that's going to be sold from the Board Game Geek store in 2024. So you do not have to pick up the big box just to get the little expansion. So there is that. Kathy Evans is with us in chat. Tessie Trekkie asks, has anyone ever made a good American football board game? Yes, Stratomatic. Stratomatic's a very good football game. But Stratomatic is you take a season and you have player cards, and those are for your, well, unless things have changed tremendously since I played it back in the 80s and early 90s. Your offensive players have their own player cards, and your defensive players have ratings. But that's really good. That's still in print. That comes out every year. So that comes out every year with the previous year's cards and everything. And Tessie Trekkie says, so it's a management game? No, you're actually playing the games. You're playing the schedule. You're calling the plays. Now, if you want to turn it into a trading game, a GM game, we did that all the time. You know, we would have drafts. I think that's one of the big appeals to games like Stratomatic, which does baseball, hockey, basketball, and football, where you draft players from different teams to create your own. Doesn't have to be a super team, but it is your own team. So there are those. I got to say, Avalon Hill did a couple of good football games. One was kind of a overall strategy game. It was pretty abstract. So it wasn't necessarily college football or pro football. It was just football. And then they also had their Status Pro sports. So Status Pro had football, basketball, and baseball. Baseball is one that we played the most. In fact, I think they even had a really good boxing game called Title Bout way back in the day. So yeah, there are some pretty good sports board games out there. There are some that are pretty abstract, that are just kind of to give you the feel of a game. I gotta be honest, I always wanted to take a look at, I'm trying to remember the name. It's something like Baseball Stars 2099 or something. That always kind of looked kind of interesting to me, where you'd have like robot players and you had men and women players, and it just kind of looked kind of cool. Roger Perdome is with us in chat. Good to see you, Roger. Let's talk about some role-playing game news. Arc Dream Publishing has teamed with Bundle of Holding to offer a money-saving deal on the horrific Delta Green role-playing game. I've got the deets on the deal. Operative. This new Delta Green role-playing game mega bundle has raided Black Site Archives to bring you a trove of tabletop role-playing game ebooks featuring Arc Dream Publishing's horror espionage RPG of modern-day Cthulhu mythos, conspiracy, and horror. Say that 5 times fast. Delta Green. Born of the U.S. government's 1928 raid on the degenerate coastal town of Innsmouth, Massachusetts, otherwise referred to as Innsmouth in the otherwise excellent BBC4 production of Shadow over Innsmouth. The covert agency known as Delta Green opposes the forces of darkness with honor, but without glory. Delta Green agents fight to save humanity from Lovecraftian alien horrors, often at a shattering personal cost. Delta Green's compelling mix of conspiracies, UFOs, agency intrigue, and Lovecraftian terror has brought it unsurpassed praise, as well as strong crowdfunding support. Arc Dream followed its spectacular September 2015 Kickstarter campaign with The Labyrinth, and biggest of all, Delta Green, The Conspiracy, an August 2021 campaign for a new rendition, pun intended, of the original Pagan Publishing Delta Green setting source book for the current standalone game. The Conspiracy campaign scored $513,000 in backing. This new mega bundle pulls in the core rulebooks and essential supplements from earlier offers, together with Conspiracy, Labyrinth, and other recent major titles. Everything you need for years of relentless terror, scalpel sharp psychological insight, authentic tradecraft, and heartless, and also authentic, bureaucracy for just $7.95. I don't know where that little hair blew up on my nose. Get off me! Get off me! Came out of nowhere, and I can feel it just sitting on the edge of my nostril. For just $7.95, you get all 3 titles in this new Mega Bundles Agent Mega Collection. Actually has a retail value of $33. As DRM-free PDFs, including the complete Delta Green role-playing game Agent's Handbook, plus the free briefing documents and the need-to-know quick start rules, as well as the character expansion The Complex and the Agent Dossiers. If you pay more than the threshold price of $39.47, yes, I will mention that is kind of pricey for a bundle of holding, but we'll discuss. You'll level up and also get this Mega Bundles entire Handler Mega Collection with 9 more titles worth an additional $153, including the Delta Green Handler's Guide and the recent major supplements, The Conspiracy and The Labyrinth, plus its evidence kit, the full-length campaigns Iconoclasts and Impossible Landscapes, plus its Static Protocol expansion, the item collection Arc Int, and the Delta Green Handler's Screen. These savings run through September 25th, just in time for Halloween. And 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to Direct Relief. Yes, this is an excellent bundle. And yes, the threshold price may have changed by a few cents, but when I took a peek, it was $39.47. And for a bundle of holding, that is a little pricey. But it's important to keep in mind that Delta Green is also kind of a pricey role-playing game in PDF. So as an example, I want to say, I think it's the Labyrinth. It's either the Labyrinth or maybe it's Impossible Landscapes. One of the two I glanced at over on Drive-Thru RPG, and just that PDF is $29.99. So here, for $39.47, you get the player book, you get the handler book, and you get loads of adventures. Plus, you also get The Conspiracy, which is like the most recent big release. You know what? I haven't reviewed The Conspiracy yet. I did a first look video, and then someone was going to review it for me, and then they didn't. Yes, it happens all the time. I'm always trying to bring new reviewers on board, especially for like role-playing game PDFs. And they're all pumped to get started, and then I never hear anything from them again. So, thank goodness I've got Sammy. Kevin R. Smith did some reviews for us. I mean, he was reliable. Why can't we have more people like Kevin? Well, who would stick around? Dusty Trekkie says, Delta Green, The Conspiracy is obscenely good. Wild Hunter is with us. Good to see you. Very similar to Call of Cthulhu, plus spies, plus military and government agencies. Not a bad system. I especially like the character creation rules. It is, well, as Kevin points out, it's a lot like Call of Cthulhu because it actually started off as a supplement for Call of Cthulhu because Pagan Publishing, who did just awesome Call of Cthulhu releases, they've got some adventure supplements that were just top notch. And they also, if I remember correctly, they were the publishers of Unspeakable Oath, which was a phenomenal Call of Cthulhu fanzine that was really, really well done. So, yes, that is why we get The Call of Cthulhu. Yes, Wild Hunter says, I remember just after Cthulhu Now. Yes. In fact, you know what? Cthulhu Now wasn't really that great a supplement. Delta Green, far, far better. And at least in my opinion, I feel that there is a far different vibe to Delta Green than Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu has cosmic horror and just creepiness and things like that. And of course, I've run it for over 40 years. But in Call of Cthulhu, you can have moments of brevity, of lightness, a little comedy every once in a while, usually from a player doing something really stupid. But you do get those moments that kind of break tension. Not so much Delta Green. Delta Green is pretty dark and gritty and grim, and there are some really horrific things in these adventures. So don't just think Delta Green is kind of a clone of Call of Cthulhu in the modern era. It is certainly not. It is like if X-Files was NC-17. Dusty Draggy says they're still waiting for the My Little Cthulhu Friendship is Madness book to be released. Is that a real thing? Because if it is, I'm buying it. Wild Hunter says, yes, they agree. Delta Green is dark. On to our next news piece. Currently up for crowdfunding is the second edition of Odysseys and Overlords from Aegis Studios. Here's the scoop. An old school fantasy setting for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. Yes, I just heard the madman's ears perk up. All the way in Michigan. I just heard this. The mortal lands are divided. A dozen kingdoms lie scattered across Pangaea, separated by dangerous wilds filled with bandits and monsters. The bravest mortals act as adventurers, guiding travelers between the kingdoms, killing monsters to thin their numbers, and plundering ruins in search of the lost treasures of the Golden Age. This is the world of Odysseys and Overlords. Odysseys and Overlords 2nd Edition brings this setting to the popular Savage Worlds Adventure Edition by Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Odysseys and Overlords initially began as a simple OSR game using the basic fantasy rule set, not 4th edition though, to create a gritty setting in which the heroes sought adventure and treasure in dangerous ruins left in the wake of a schism between the gods. This basic premise expanded as various authors came aboard to create adventures and gazetteers that shaped the world into a coherent and cohesive form. Each new release unveiled a new aspect of the setting while maintaining a feel reminiscent of old-school dungeon crawls. One of the aspects of the setting that emerged as the 1st edition progressed was the idea that adventurers could aspire to immortality as gods through remarkable deeds. To promote Odysseys and Overlords, we began an actual play with our partners at Roll for Seduction, which further expanded the lore of the setting and helped refine the systems into what would eventually become the 2nd edition of the game. When the open game license debacle happened, I like to refer to it as the fiasco, we decided to move away from traditional OSR rule sets, bringing the setting into Savage Worlds. Now we'd like to share the setting with you in this new rule set. Odysseys and Overlords 2nd Edition is a setting manual and core rulebook that contains new ancestries, domains, and magic items. An expanded bestiary introduces new creatures and provides guidelines on adapting existing creatures from Savage Worlds Adventure Edition and Suede Fantasy Companion for use in the setting. Finally, the core rulebook offers a starter adventure so you and your group can dive right on into the action and begin telling your tales in the world of Odysseys and Overlords. This book is also designed to preserve the functionality and utility of all 1st edition materials by clearly describing which creatures and traps to use when adapting those materials at your table, so you can gain the full benefit of 4 years worth of previous releases while enjoying the fast, furious, and fun systems of the new edition. This book is written and laid out. Amazing cover art by Dean Spencer has been commissioned, who Dean Spencer actually also worked on the first edition. We just need your help to get it out to as many people as possible. And we feel the best platform to do that is Kickstarter. To provide a smooth and easy fulfillment experience, books and add-ons for this Kickstarter will be fulfilled through Drive-Thru RPG. This project is in its final week, with just under $1,000 to go to hit its funding goal. You can reserve a copy of the PDF and get a voucher for an at-cost softcover printing from Drive-Thru RPG for a $10 pledge, or grab just the PDF alone for a $5 pledge. If this project funds, expect delivery on the digital copy and print coupons next month. Well, and this is now in its final week. I am sharing just Kickstarter.com because Aegis Studios doesn't have a website. So, I'll just throw Kickstarter.com. Of course, tomorrow morning you will have a news piece over on thegaminggang.com that has the link to the Kickstarter, because of course the Kickstarter link wouldn't fit on the screen here. It's way too long. But there was, or I shouldn't say was, there is a Kickstarter video for this. I would have shared it, but it's almost 5 minutes long, and it is members of, for what it seemed to be, I didn't watch the whole thing. It's members of the actual play group, and I'm no offense to them whatsoever, but to me, it just wasn't grabbing me like, hey, you know what? I watched this video. Now I want to support this project. So that's why I didn't share it, because here I'm sharing artwork. I'm actually sharing some artwork from the previous edition. So we do have the cover artwork for this new edition. These are some interior pages from the first edition as well. So as you can see, this is very professionally presented. So I'm kind of like, hey, you know what? Granted, they're only at about the 75, maybe 80% funding mark. But usually with Kickstarters, if the project can get to that 80% mark with 1 week or so to go, they can usually get over the hump and bring it home. So let's hope so, because this looks pretty cool. And just like Tessie Trekkie said, $5, I'm sold. Hey, we're looking at some inexpensive, old school Renaissance fantasy role-playing tonight, folks. That is kind of our theme for the evening. So definitely check this out. It is Odysseys and Overlords 2nd edition, if you want to take a look at it on Kickstarter now, or if you want to wait until tomorrow morning when the news piece pops up on thegaminggang.com, I will have the relevant links there also. Kevin R. Smith says, I'm perking up at this one too. I'm rereading Savage Pathfinder and preparing to get the new printing of Adventure Edition Core. Yes, I got to be honest. I had emailed Jody Black over at Pinnacle Entertainment Group, and it seemed like she was going to send out Savage Worlds Adventure Edition and, I don't know, maybe the Horror Companion or something. I haven't seen anything. I don't know. Maybe the madman went and talked to her at Dragon Con and said, hey, don't send anything to that bum. Gaming Gang sucks. Why would you consider having them take a look at anything? Anyway, I'm probably going to reach out to her again, see what's going on, because it's been a few weeks. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Because, you know, I want to take a look at the newest edition of Savage Worlds, or at least Suede, I guess I would say. Wild Hunter says, definitely worth a try for $5. They just bought Suede. So nice. And Kevin Hurst-Smith says the same thing. Hey, nice price too. I got to be honest. I think that's why they're only at 80%, because their pledges are so low. Maybe if they'd said, oh yeah, get the PDF for $10 and an at cost coupon for 15, because I'm taking a guess, maybe 200 pages. That would be fair, right? When you think. But no, it's $10 for the PDF and that print coupon, or $5 for the PDF. Moving right along, talking about print and PDF. Now available in print and PDF from Modiphius Entertainment is Star Trek Adventures, Star Trek Lower Decks Campaign Guide. It's another one that just rolls off the tongue, huh? Here's the lowdown. We're more like the cool, scrappy underdogs of the ship. Ensign Beckett Mariner. The Star Trek Lower Decks Campaign Guide expands upon the core Star Trek Adventures role-playing game experience by providing detailed advice on creating junior officers and using them to tell amazing Star Trek-style stories with the fun, irrelevant tone. English, Jeff, use it. My tongue was tied up. Kevin says average pledge over on Kickstarter for Out of Season Overlords 2E is $18. So a lot of people must be going for that $25 pledge that gives you a social media shout out in your name in the book. A lot of people do like to have their names in that. Tessie Trekkie just says they just backed at $10, even though they have no intent on getting the print-on-demand version. Hey, the Madman says, hey, they did talk to Jody Black over at Dragon Con. Got to talk some Savage Worlds, as well as check out the Carolina game tables. Yes, because I know the Madman was talking about he might be in the market for a table. Hopefully he name-dropped the gaming gang while he was there. I know he didn't. He was too in awe of the folks behind Savage Worlds. So he didn't even think of the channel or me. I know how he is. I don't fucking know. I'm just kidding around. Whether you're cleaning holodeck biofilters, conducting an anomaly consolidation day, participating in a second contact, or enjoying some well-earned buffer time, there's always something new to encounter and learn, both within the universe and yourself and your fellow crewmates. How will you make a name for yourself and your companions? The 240-page full-color hardback Star Trek Lower Decks Campaign Guide contains an extensive discussion of the state of the galaxy in the late 24th century, including updated information on the Federation, Starfleet, Packlids, and more. Detailed information on the Lower Decks junior officer experience, including daily life, procedures, career development, and more. New life path options for player characters, including 8 new playable species, including Cretaceans, Gorn, Packlids, and Exocomps. Game statistics and graphics for 7 space frames, including the California, Obina, Parliament classes, and game statistics for over 20 ships from Starfleet and other polities, as well as a selection of ground vehicles. New gear, technologies, and creatures, as well as a complete system for creating your own creatures. There's a wealth of advice on game mastering Lower Deck style campaigns, whether you're playing a Starfleet campaign or one based on another polity. And I don't care for that term. Can't they just say, I don't know, species? Just polity sounds weird. More than 50 non-player characters to include in your games, pulled from a variety of, get ready for it, polities and species. See, now they use both. A 3-part mini-campaign focused on junior officers that can be adapted for use in other eras of play, and with crews from any polity. Includes a foreword written by Star Trek Lower Decks creator Mike McMahon. No relation to Ed, I'm sure. This book requires a Star Trek Adventures core rulebook to use, and if you order it from Modiphius Entertainment, you will receive the accompanying PDF immediately upon purchase. The 240-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $59.99, including that PDF. Or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $18. Kind of surprised it's not $25 or $30. That's actually a pretty smoking deal on that PDF for $18. And of course, if you are a fan of Lower Decks, this is a must-have. Really is. I don't know if we're going to get to see this. So, very well. Okay, Kevin. Okay, good point. Kevin R. Smith does mention that I assume they used polity because some polities, like the Federation, have more than one species. Yeah, okay. Flaming Heron is with us in chat. So they're not going to be talkative. They're waiting for an appointment. Just decided to pop on in and say howdy. And I'll take a guess that our third chat moderator is probably floating around out there. Sarah D. Howdy, howdy. Hope you're recovering nicely. She's been a little under the weather. We've talked about that on previous shows. I'm not going to rehash that, but hopefully she's doing all right. Cool deal. So that is the news tonight. Wild Hunter asks, is Lower Decks woke? Isn't all Star Trek woke? Okay, so we'll discuss that in a second. I'm gonna tell you my thoughts on the term woke. Tessie Drake says, note to self, resurrect my fan document of using Star Trek Adventures for the Orville. Yes. Very easily done, right? Sarah D is with us. Howdy, Sarah. Okay. Anyway, that was the news for tonight. I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. There are two big sales that are actually going on right now. There is the Modern Era September sale at Drive-Thru RPG. And I said you could save up to 25%. I was absolutely wrong on that. There are some RPGs out there you can save 80%. One of them, I don't think it's 80%, I think it's 75%, is Osprey Games' Dark City, the noir role-playing game I reviewed not too long ago. Really liked it quite a bit. I think you can get it for like $3.50 right now. It's insane. So, Mr. Eddie T has a double ear infection. Oh, hopefully he feels better soon. My best friend Elliot Miller, he's always sick. He let me know. He said, yeah, that he was suffering from some non-COVID bug. So I was talking to him earlier today because we might resurrect the Monday night Call of Cthulhu. Remember that I was like, hey, I'm not. My nephew was like, I got things to do, and it's like, dude, if we're gonna do this every 2 weeks, we gotta do this every 2 weeks. Well, he probably won't be playing, but we might be doing Massive Nyarlathotep. Yeah, so anyway, I was joking with Ellie, and I said, oh, what do you got? The ass flu? He's like, well, as a matter of fact. I was like, I don't need to know about it. Don't need to know about it. So there's also the back-to-school sale over at Dungeon Masters Guild for Roll20. So it is, it's 40% off various different D&D Roll20 releases. So just floating those sales out there. But regardless, if you have a chance, if you're going to go visit any of those sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. Even if it's a banner ad for something that is not the site you're going to, because once you land at, say, Drive-Thru RPG, if you look at the lower left, you'll see all the One Bookshelf sites. If you click on, say you're going to Dungeon Masters Guild, click on that, it will still keep the affiliate code. So there is that. Also, if you like this video, hopefully you're giving it a thumbs up. If you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find the gaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Diet Right is what I normally drink when it's available. And I do want to mention Joseph DeBar, Roger Prudhomme, and the Madman recently stopped by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made not so small donations. So, big tip of the visor. Yes, I'm not wearing a baseball cap. Tip of the visor to them and all of you out there who use the banner ads and or visit paypal.me/thegaminggang. Thank you kindly. All right, so there were a couple of things I was going to mention, and then we're going to jump on into our first look at the 4th edition of Basic Fantasy. And now I got a third thing because somebody had asked, I think it was Wild Hunter, asked if Star Trek Lower Decks is woke. So I'll tackle that first. Isn't all Star Trek woke? Really? But here's the problem I've got with the term woke. Because as far as I understand, that term was an African American term to mean if you were awake to realize the shit that actually really goes on in this country, were you woke to it? That's what I thought it meant. Now it's essentially anything the right wants to whine and complain and cry about. Oh, it's the war on Christmas all over again. It's woke. But then on the flip side of that, I mean, you know, if you watch this show for any length of time, you know that I am a liberal. I am a lifelong Democrat. Always have been. But there are some things on the left that just drive me bonkers. And it's like, really? It's like, how about living in the real world, please? You know, come on. But I just don't like the term woke because it's sort of like, okay, so now all these white folk have appropriated this term that we shouldn't have. For good or ill. So anyway. The Madman says, yeah, I'm correct. That is pretty much the origin of the term. So Tessie Trekkie says, woke got generalized to be meaningless. Right. Well, it's not necessarily meaningless. Now it's just something to irritate people. Oh, it's woke, or you're a wokey. Tessie Trekkie says, Star Trek's always been woke. Kirk and Uhura kissing, Riker in a skirt. They're post-scarcity luxury space communism. Hey, I wouldn't mind it. It'd be all right. I don't know if I'd want to wear a skirt. But, yeah, hey, we don't have money anymore. We don't need money. But one thing I have to admit, I always liked about Next Generation, and I got to say, this seems to have been something after Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry. passed away. No relation to Gene Roddenberry, who owns the milk company down the street. Next Generation started to kind of poke some holes into the Federation, that the Federation wasn't all good and perfect. And I like that a lot. Just like you noticed after Roddenberry passed away, you saw a little more conflict within the characters of the show. Not crazy, but you'd see them get along not as well in some episodes, which I really liked quite a lot. Kevin King says in the game mastering sections for Star Trek Adventures, they stress the importance of the philosophy of Star Trek from a 2020s, not a 1960s perspective. You can ignore this, run classic Trek. Wild Hunter also points out that Star Trek to Orville conversion sounds like fun. Oh, I would take a guess that there is somebody with some free fan materials that are floating out there somewhere online in a PDF that you can download to bring the Orville to Star Trek Adventures. Kevin R. Smith says, yep, if the people complaining about New Trek being woke were around in the 60s, they would have been complaining about TOS forcing all that diversity down their throats. Yes, the original series. No, what they would have been doing in the 1960s was complaining about how they wanted America back like it was in the 1910s. You know, why can't we just go back to silent films where they were hanging the blackies and, you know, Birth of a Nation? That's my favorite movie of all time. Tessie Drake says, I like the Federation as an ideal, but not a utopia. Yeah, because the way it eventually becomes in Star Trek is it's not a utopia. There are problems within the Federation. So one aspect I like about science fiction is when we get into these like utopian situations, right? Well, we don't have the need for money anymore and people don't have to work. Well, then what happens? Don't have to work anymore, then what do you do? How does your life have meaning? It can't all be hobbies, right? Kind of interesting to kind of process. All right, so anyway, so we were talking about that. Okay, a couple other things. I've had some folks ask, now that I've got a much higher or much larger amount of bandwidth to upload, why am I not streaming in 4K? Why am I not sharing videos in 4K? And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, I do not have capture equipment for 4K 60 frames per second. They actually aren't out. They aren't available. The best you can see is 4K 30. So now there are 4K 60 webcams in that, but I use actual cameras. So, which can record 4K 60. In fact, one of them can record 4K 120p. But once again, I don't have the capture equipment to do that. Also, even if I did, I probably wouldn't. Because for one, I realized that a lot of people, their internet provider, including my own, have limits to how much data you can download in a month. So Xfinity, I think it's like 1.2 terabytes, which I mean, that's a good amount. But if you're streaming everything in 4K, that eats that up like that. So that is one of the reasons. That's kind of the main reason, but also because I don't have capture equipment to capture 4K. Could I shoot like standalone videos and then edit them and upload them in 4K? Yeah, I could. But editing 4K is not easy either, even though I do have pretty high-end desktop and laptops. Still, I like being able to, okay, all right, cut that, do, done, okay, process, upload, not, come on. So that's why I don't stream in 4K. Plus, I think it's overkill. I don't think you need to see this mug in 4K. I really don't think so. I think you see the text in that pretty well. 1080p when, now that we've got the much larger amount of bandwidth that we can use. Other thing I want to mention is I am bouncing around doing another round of Halloween shows. So Halloween old time radio shows. But I have done that a few times over the years, and there are only so many really good, scary old time radio shows. And I really don't want to be sitting there just, well, okay, here's one I never shared before, but it's kind of meh. Or the big reveal is that it's not supernatural in nature at all. I'm not a fan of those kind of horror radio shows. Oh, if it weren't for you kids, you meddling kids and that fucking dog, I'd have gotten away with it, you bastards. I'm thinking I might do all episodes of CBS Radio Mystery Theater, which are an hour in length, sometimes a little more than an hour. What I'll try to do is I'll try to stick to episodes that were supernatural in nature, because they did actually quite a few, like, satanic cult ones and stuff. Because, yeah, it was, Rosemary's Baby and stuff would come out. And, yeah, we had a bit of a satanic panic back at that point, too, because you had The Exorcist was right around the early 70s. Rosemary's Baby, if I remember right, I think that's 69. And 1974 is when CBS Radio Mystery Theater starts. But one of the things I'm going to do is I'll actually kind of upload it to YouTube, which I normally don't do because YouTube is now looking for podcasts. So I actually have this show as a podcast now, because I know there are a lot of people out there who actually catch the show. They don't really watch it, they listen to it, which is one of the reasons why I read some of the things that people share in chat, because I do understand that everyone is, focused on the video itself or watching the chat window go past. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. So let me know either in chat or in the comment section if you want the nightly horror shows again for this October. If you could live without them, that's fine. Save me a whole hell of a lot of work. Well, there's the Madman says, I'm looking forward to listening to those old-time radio shows. They're always enjoyable. Okay. That's all I want to talk about. So tonight, I'm going to be diving on into Basic Fantasy 4th edition from Chris Gonnerman. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Hey, Mom. Yes, you. Why fuss and fret about dinner? Why not have it right here? Yes, this drive-in offers everyone in the family a real picnic treat for dinner. We've got delicious sandwiches with all the trimmings and your other dinner favorites, plus whatever you want to drink, hot or cold. Come early before the show starts, or eat while you're being entertained, or at intermission time. So why fuss? Give your family a tasty dinner at this drive-in.
beautiful.
Fresh.
Fresh.
Fresh? Iroquois fresh-tasting beer. Other beers flat. Stale. Ugh.
For that fresh, fresh feeling, have an Erie. Let's have an Erie.
Let's have an Erie.
For that fresh, fresh feeling, have an Erie. Iroquois, the fresh tasting beer.
Fresh 'em up, set 'em up. Erie.
This volunteer doesn't drink Wilkins instant coffee.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Oh, I do.
This is it. Enemy troops attacking from all sides. Situation calls for the gigantic power-packed missile cannon on wheels. This is Big Shot. Big Shot by Marx. Mounted on its huge six-wheel truck, you can move Big Shot anywhere. Loaded with these long-range rubber-tipped missiles. Set the cap-firing hammer. Swing Big Shot's barrel with this remote control switch. The remote control elevation knob raises and lowers the barrel.
Take it down to elevation 4. There's the target. Ready. Fire!
Wow, direct hit!
Battery-powered Big Shot comes complete with 3 rubber-tipped missiles, caps, and enemy target. Batteries not included. You're in command with the gigantic power-packed missile cannon on wheels. Bargain-priced Big Shot by Marx. Get it.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
There are so many things wrong with that Iroquois beer commercial. Oh, let me count the ways of how wrong that commercial is. Dusty Trekkie points out an American howitzer toy by Marx. Yes, Carl designed some artillery. So tonight, we are going to jump on in and take a first look at Basic Fantasy 4th Edition from Chris Gonnerman. This is available absolutely free. Yes, you heard that right. If you go to basicfantasy.org, you can get your hands on Basic Fantasy 4th Edition absolutely free, plus all the adventures, all the supplements, everything that is released from Basic Fantasy, which has a really great community. All of it absolutely free. Now, if you want a physical book, the hardcover is available from Amazon for $16.95, or you can grab the soft cover for $8.35. So effectively, it's really the cost, the printing that you're paying for. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Basic Fantasy 4E. Do want to thank Chris Gonnerman for sharing this review copy with me. It is much appreciated. Of course, as I point out all the time, neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. It's really important you know that these days. I know some people think, Jeff, why do you say that? Because it's important. No one has paid me to share this with you. Anyway, because this is available for free, we are probably going to look at far more pages in here than I normally would with a game book. But we're not going to look at each and every page. I am kind of curious how this is different than the 3rd edition, which back in the day, I picked this up on Amazon. In fact, I have, so it's probably been about 6 months since I looked to see what was going on with the print editions of some of the releases that were available. But as of 6 months ago, I had also bought everything that was in print for Basic Fantasy. And from my understanding, 4th edition, everything from the earlier editions is still compatible. This is now Creative Commons. This is not open game license. This is the 4th edition of the Basic Fantasy role-playing game, a fast-playing, rules-like game designed for the style of play popular in the early days of role-playing games. The look and feel is classic, from the races, classes, spells, monsters, and magic items included, down to the very typeface and layout chosen. This is old school. Modern game systems are heavy, both in terms of the sheer weight of the books, as well as the amount the players and game master must learn to play them. Here in this one volume are all the rules needed to create and run adventures the old-fashioned way. An experienced player can create and equip a character in under 10 minutes, and even a novice can be ready to play in under a half hour. Game masters will find that the brief and simple rules for monsters and magic make the job of adventure creation just as easy. Combat can be completed by moderately experienced players with little or no need to stop and look up rules. Don't buy this book. Well, not yet anyway. The Basic Fantasy role-playing game rules are available for free on our website, basicfantasy.org. There you'll also find adventures, alternate rules, and other supplementary materials to enhance your games. Now, if you don't want to print the rules out yourself, please do buy this book and enjoy. All right, let's jump on in. Oh, so there's some discussion about the Velma series. Yeah, I didn't even bother giving that a whiff because I heard it was awful too. So we've got all of our contributors, different artists. So there are a lot of people who are involved in Basic Fantasy. It's not just Chris Gonnerman. So we've got our introduction. What is a role-playing game? I always joke around, if I ever wrote a role-playing core book in the section where it's like, what is a role-playing game? I would just say, the book you have in your hands. That's it, one sentence. So we're covering the dice, creating player characters, or character races, dwarves, elves, halflings, humans. Of course, over at basicfantasy.org, there are loads and loads more different character species. We've got 20 levels to play with, showing the different experience points, spells for clerics. As you notice, this is old school, first level cleric, no spells. Magic user thief, thief abilities, all as percentile chances here. Money, equipment, weapons. All right, where are all the pole arms? We need at least 40 pole arms here. There is one. It's just this pole arm. Wild Hunter says, I have the PDFs, but nothing beats the feel of a well-printed, fresh new role-playing game to hold in your hands. I did hear through the grapevine that the presentation is a little bit different. That it's far easier to wrap your head around the rules in this 4th edition as compared to the 3rd edition. I do know for a fact that there are about another extra 35 pages in this. I think this is clocking in at 200, and 3rd edition is right around 165. So we've got our magic user spells up to 6th level. All our spells in alphabetical order, and as you can see, this is old school. So you get the spell, get a breakdown, and then you get a handful of paragraphs to explain it. We're not looking at a page or two going to all these different details about the spells. One thing I think would be fantastic, and It may exist out there already. I don't know, because it's not as if I've had a chance to see every fantasy role-playing release that comes out from every company. But as far as bestiaries go, in my opinion, I think the most important thing when describing a creature or monster or what have you in a bestiary is what sets this apart from other creatures that would be similar. Because if you think about it, on the surface, if you look at, let's say, original Dungeons and Dragons, first edition D&D, you don't have a hell of a lot of difference on the surface between goblins, kobolds, even orcs, although, orcs are tougher. They are bigger, obviously, than kobolds and goblins, but there's a lot of sameness to them. What I would always like to see in a bestiary is give me the stat block, then tell me, what does this thing do? So I actually just shot, it's not out yet, I'll have it up tomorrow. I shot my first look video at Forbidden Lands Book of Beasts. And one of the things I find very interesting about their monster presentation is that many of the monsters actually have a table with 6 entries that the game master actually rolls to see what attack the monster uses. So that it's not just the same old, oh, he rolls to attack, he rolls to attack, he rolls to attack, he rolls to attack. It's like, Kevin King says, looks like mixed art styles. Yes, most definitely. Got to remember that this is more, kind of a, how would I put this? This is more because of Chris Gonnerman and the community's love of old school role-playing games, more than it being something that's a money-making venture. So really, it's a labor of love. So as far as having all the various different art styles, it doesn't bother me. With an old school role-playing game, that was pretty much par for the course anyway. Wild Hunter says the supplements mainly cover other classes, all very similar to early D&D, streamlined for a better flow of play, great system for fun dungeon bashing. And it also has the modern D20 approach to combat. So you're not looking at having to find, attack matrices and things like that in the book. There is no THAC0 in the book. So this is also a very easy game to segue people from 5e to a far more old school sort of system and just mindset of adventures. Now, I do recall that most of the page space is devoted to the monsters in here. So as you can see, and it looks like quite a few of them have art. Oh, jeez. Okay. So that stands out a bit. Another thing that's pretty cool about Basic Fantasy is if you go to the website, you will find many of the classic D&D adventures have been reimagined for Basic Fantasy, which I think is very, very cool. And they've kind of been more modernized. So Isle of Dread, as an example, is one. You also have the Keep on the Borderlands. So as you can see, we've got a lot of monsters in the book. Various different giants. Different golems, hobgoblins, the hippogriff. This is all you need. Just this book is all you need to start running and playing old school styled fantasy role-playing adventures. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Looks like we're coming to the end of the bestiary. Zombrere and Skeletor. That's actually kind of cool, that artwork there. So we've got treasure. Of course, we have treasure types. So each of the monsters are going to have a code for the, the value, I guess we'll say, of what they carry. And then we've got all the various different tables. This is kind of familiar to those who recall the AD&D Dungeon Masters guide. So we've got some magic items here. Wand, staves, and rods. So now we get into wilderness encounters, wandering monsters, creating an NPC party, optional rules, death and dying. We have weapon and armor restrictions. So clerics are prohibited from using edged weapons. Of course, that is something that's not really a big deal anymore, like in 5e. So these are just little kind of tidbits. Well, I don't want to say tidbits. There's a little bit more to it than that, but a few paragraphs devoted to various different topics. Here we've got creating a dungeon adventure, designing a wilderness adventure, strongholds. Although there really aren't any rules, at least in this book here, for like domain play. And then it looks like we've got, it's just a little adventure. Now it's giving us an example here of Sir Percy's Keep. And we're going to wrap up with an index. And this is made in the US, Moni, Illinois. I must be down south. Must be Southern Illinois. So that is a look inside Basic Fantasy 4th edition from Chris Gonnerman. Once again, in PDF, this is absolutely free. So if you go to basicfantasy.org, you can get your hands on this and hundreds upon hundreds of pages of supplemental material without spending a dime. It's one of the things that I love about Basic Fantasy, on top of the fact that it is a good, solid game. It's not just, oh, hey, we're going to take the BX rules and we're going to clean them up a little bit and republish them. No, I mean, there is like a rule system in here that is unique, similar to D20, but also it's kind of almost like a D20 take on the OSR. But love the fact that there is just so much content out there. And I know a lot of people out there, a lot of prospective gamers talk about how expensive the entry cost into our hobby is. Now, these are people who are looking at D&D and it's like, oh, $60 a book. Okay, well, I guess I can get the 3 core books at a sale price and it's $120. And no, you don't have to spend anything. Just go get yourself some dice. So, Shaz is with us in chat, as is Roll for Turico. Basic Fantasy 4th is pretty good. The core rules is the player's handbook, the GM book rolled into one. Yes, all you need is right here. That is it. And it's pretty rules light. It really is. All right. So once again, absolutely free, basicfantasy.org. Or if you want to pick up this soft cover, $8.35 at Amazon. If you want the hardcover, $16.95 over on Amazon.com. All right. I'll actually, what I'm going to do probably for October is I've been thinking that my why you should play video for October is going to be basic fantasy. So that will kind of be my review for 4th edition. But I'm also going to show some of the other content that I've got and kind of discuss basic fantasy like overall, not just the core rulebook. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is it for tonight's show. Next week, on Tuesday's show, we are going to be taking a look at Barcelona from Board and Dice. And I'm not sure what else we're taking a peek at yet next week, because there's some stuff in transit. Now, on yesterday's show, I had mentioned that we were going to have plenty of content for Wargame Wednesdays for the near future. And the reason is I touched base with Tabletop Tycoon about Healthy Heart Hospital, and I had mentioned, you know, how I had reviewed it back in the day for Victory Point Games, and the Gaming Gang was one of the only outlets who actually even looked at Victory Point Games releases. So they are sending me Healthy Heart Hospital, as well as, I think there are 4 or 5 of the new reprints of Victory Point Games titles. So there's like Ottoman Sunset, which, to be honest, I don't think I ever even took a look at back when Victory Point Games was releasing the Ziploc bag kind of desktop published games. I think that was a title that I missed. So kind of interesting. So we are going to have all of that heading our way. So maybe if that shows up, maybe we'll take a look at Healthy Heart Hospital next week, or one of the Victory Point Games titles, because Healthy Heart Hospital, as I mentioned in the news segment that I did, is Sparkworks. Even though it's Victory Point Games originally, and Tabletop Tycoon has the rights to all the Victory Point games, they put it under the Sparkworks imprint. So I was like, okay. Roll for Traco says, have you checked out Old Swords Reign? Similar to Basic Fantasy, just added the PDF for free on their site, and their player handbook is under $5. I'm not aware of it at all. Got to be honest. A lot of times I have to have companies reach out and touch base, because there are so many companies that I get emails from that there's tons of things that just fly right under my radar. Just the nature of the beast. That is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, be sure to ring that bell, because not only will it let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. I'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my recent review for Dungeons and Dragons, Fendelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk from Wizards of the Coast. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, thank you kindly, because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company while I'm doing an unboxing or paging through a book. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch this show and any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Till I see you next time, I hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.